Okay, so next up we have Scott Norton, also known as Moto Preserve. He's going to talk to us about how you plan to be safe before you take off. And he's going to use the feature that we've added to the studio known as a door. Scott, come on in. He's coming in from stage left.
Secret doors.
The secret door. He has a Goupolini collection that must be incredible. You know what a Goupolini is?
I don't.
That's an Italian word for like a knit cap. Although yours isn't knit. That one is, oh, that's knit.
It's always the same cap, although I did get a new cap for Christmas.
Is that reversible, maybe?
But I haven't.
What are you hiding under there?
I haven't broken it out yet.
I feel like I should wear a sympathy cap when you come on. Anyway, so we're going to talk about safe. We're going to do this together. We have Bill, our new studio manager, behind the controls. Welcome to the operation, Bill. You want to give a shout out?
I rock.
I rock. He fits right in.
Yeah, exactly right.
So anyway, we're talking about how you plan to be safe before you actually take off and start flying around all those people that have stepped up to watch you.
Exactly right.
So
I did want to say Patrick was awesome.
Yeah, he's a good guest. I don't know where I found him from. He crawled out from under a rock, and we said, "Sure, come on, be on the show." And what do you know? He delivers.
He's the ringer. So this week we're going to talk about a little bit about planning for a safe flight. I think when you first mentioned it to me, which was not all that long ago,
right?
I thought it was a great idea. I think you have been really good about mentioning safety. At the end of each episode, you've been talking about keeping it safe and whatnot.
It's important.
I think the first thing that I thought about when you first mentioned that was actually how there's... in the beginning, when I first started flying, I had a tendency to be so amazed by the technology that I almost just trusted in it blindly.
Sure. Yep.
That didn't last very long.
Plus, there's so much anxiety around those first flights that you're not really thinking about.
And you almost you're
what can I do better?
You're wishing it to go well. Obviously.
Right. Yeah.
And you don't want accidents to happen.
Right.
Then you have accidents. So then you have to move on.
Sure.
So I think I've broken it down into a couple different segments in terms of my safety setup. What I try to focus on is both the surroundings and then also the mechanical. I sort of split that up.
Sure. There's the aircraft, and then there's the environment around the aircraft.
Exactly right. So just keeping an eye on your surroundings and stuff. I sort of start with just a basic getting a lay of the land. When I was fortunate enough up in Vermont to be able to fly with a very, very low population density.
Sure.
But I have obviously flown in places that were a little bit thicker with population. So the first thing that I always try to do when I get to the field is kind of take a look around, make sure that the place, especially new places. If I was flying at the AMA field that I was in the club that I was a part of, obviously I knew the lay of the land. I knew where all the wires were. I knew
exactly
any pitfalls were going to be.
Right.
But anytime you're going to someplace new, if you're flying a smaller craft and you're doing it at a park that's off on your own and you feel safe about it, there's still some things that you need to check out. And some of those things would be, like I mentioned, power wires can definitely wreak havoc with the electronics.
Yep.
You could also obviously just physically fly into them.
Sure.
I think just kind of getting a sense of how close or far you are from the people that might be around is also important. I think it's important to let people know that what you're doing, that it's not safe. A lot of people don't know about this technology yet. It's obviously in the news a lot more than it ever has been, but there's still people that are green to it.
Sure.
So letting them know, hey, I'm going to be doing what I'm doing. There are going to be spinning propellers. They can be dangerous. Make sure you don't approach the craft.
Right.
And just giving them a basic heads up.
Because ultimately, I mean, part of what we've talked about in the past is this is now an aircraft. So the FAA is treating it like an aircraft, and just like any other pilot that flies, you are the ultimate responsibility. You are ultimately responsible for every aspect of the flight, and the FAA is going to hold you to that. So if you want to go out there and do this, and if there's people collecting around your operation, it's your responsibility
to call it and say, I need to take the actions that...
Right, and if you're not comfortable doing that, talking to people who might step up and be putting themselves in harm's way,
then you have to choose a different location.
Then you have to choose a different hobby.
Yeah, exactly right.
So
and I think, and it's been said before, I mean, we are ambassadors of this new hobby.
Every time we fly.
Every time we fly. So we have, not only do we have the responsibility to our personal crafts that we're flying, I think it's also important to keep in mind that my actions could very well affect your actions or Bill's actions.
You know, with the new studio, let's switch sides.
Let's switch sides.
And that way you can...
Safer?
Yeah, let's just do this real quick, the time that it takes.
Yeah,
and that way, Bill, running the equipment for the first time tonight.
Okay, we're over here.
We have our glancing shot off to the side here that we can use to get Scott when Scott's talking.
Yeah.
We're breaking in, Bill. Trial by fire. What other way is there? So go ahead.
So basically, just in terms of the basic gist of the location where you are, obviously taking into account any kind of physical, whether it be structures, power lines, fences, anything, the trees that are around you, obviously having, making sure you're in an area that you can handle.
Right.
Taking care of letting people know, either obviously getting away from people so that you don't feel that you're going to be infringing on their personal space, or if there are people around and you feel comfortable enough to fly, you want to make sure that you can explain to them it's best not to approach the craft, this is what I'm doing.
And if people are standing kind of in the direction that you're going to be departing from your little spot where you're working, you need to say, excuse me, but I'm going to be, that's kind of like my departure corridor, you know, and I need to go out that way, so you need to move 30 feet or 40 feet to the side. Yeah,
and I think that the last big thing about the physical surroundings is that, and this is a general thing, I think you need to focus on having, if not a specific flight plan, you need your outs. You need your safety landing zone. So you have to prepare for the worst.
Plan your plan B, C, and D before you're in the air and before the motor fails or before the GPS starts sending it off in some odd direction. So when you react, you're reacting in a way that you've already considered.
And it's not foreign to you. Exactly right. Exactly right. And I think we talked about it's same with the motorcycle.
Sure.
First thing they would ever tell you about riding a motorcycle is to make sure that you know you're out. So you don't want to put yourself in a position where you have no out. If you're tailgating too much, obviously you have no out. You need to be able to have enough space, enough distance, enough safe place around you to make a choice, and as you say, a B, C, or D, because something, chances are, could go wrong.
Right. The way they put that in flying, they say, don't let the airplane go someplace where your brain already hasn't been.
Right.
So don't let the airplane get out in front of your brain, or let the helicopter, the multi-rotor, the SUAS, the drone with quotation marks around it.
The possibly soon to be legal to use commercially.
Soon to be legal. When that happens, I'll drop the mic and run out. I'll be like, hey, got to hit the FISDO. All right, so what else do we have? What else are we talking about in terms of making ourselves safe before we take off?
Okay, I think the next big thing, and this is something which would be probably already on the minds of people that are building their own, but if you've gone out and you've bought an RTF, some of these things might not be, in terms of the actual mechanics, might not be top of mind before you head out to the field. Obviously, oftentimes people are buying these things and they're delivered in a completely flyable state.
That's right.
Supposedly. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be checking some things. So in terms of basic checks, it's always a good idea to check wires, connectors, making sure batteries are secured, that they're not moving around, because obviously that can also pull on some connectors. I think for me, always running through a quick rundown of my fingers on doing a quick rundown with my fingers on the props, just to make sure that there are no nicks or cracks, and nothing that I've missed. Speaking of props, I also will run up, spool up the motors, just letting them idle in the arming sequence, just to make sure, triple check. I do a quick release, triple check that they're on the right direction. It may or may not have happened once where I put all of them on. Well, it was a weird Chinese directions thing, but I ended up putting on the props all completely on the wrong direction. So the minute I armed, all of them perfectly went in a perfect circle. Nothing broke. It was in an open field. But that kind of thing can happen. Fortunately, the quick releases were just on the opposite motors. But
this is cathartic, admitting these things.
Hey, it happens. And you know what? I think of that every time. That's never happened again. But it's worth keeping in mind, because if there's something wrong with the prop or it's broken, as opposed to finding that out when it's 10 or 20 or 100 feet in the air, better to find it out early on. Also, I think specific to locations and pre-flight check, making sure you do the calibration set up for anybody who's using GPS. Obviously, many of the flight controllers at this point,
and especially
if not a majority of them, have GPS. So.
And especially know the tones that the flight control system is going to make, or the lights.
Right. Exactly right.
And if you don't have the lights committed to memory, have them
in your pocket.
In your pocket. So that's what I do too with my NASA, the A2.
And
I always have those LED codes.
Yeah. And I just have a little cheat sheet. I keep it right in my toolbox. That's always
right. So know your codes, know your sounds. If it doesn't sound right, don't just keep calibrate until you get the thing. Stop. Remove power from it. Give it a visual inspection. See if there's some reason, maybe a chafed wire along the frame somewhere. But all this stuff you're doing before you fly.
Yeah, to ensure that when you fly, no surprises.
Exactly.
Or as few surprises as
possible.
And I think, I know we were going to try to keep this quick and kind of short.
Why should tonight be different from any other night?
I think we should try to do it. Hey, it's a goal.
Bill's laughing at me.
I think that...
have to be home.
Yeah, Bill's mom said he has to be home by 10:30. So
I think the most important thing, just in terms of a mindset for flying safe, is not to try to muscle through it.
Yeah.
I think there is so much. You mentioned the anxiety that sometimes the companies get into the field and getting ready. I think there's just pure excitement sometimes. I think sometimes we will it to be okay. I think that there have been times early on when I looked at something, I wasn't positive something was wrong, and I found myself saying, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah,
and then I had to stop myself and say, you know what? I don't really think it's fine. If I'm even questioning it, there's probably something wrong. It's probably worth taking the time to check it out and kind of do a double take. So I think just in general, there's just some very basic. We could obviously go into a lot more detail, and maybe we'll add some things onto the
and everyone's experience is going to be different. If you have experiences where you fly and you say to yourself, wow, I should have caught that before I flew, put that on your personal list. Put that on your list of things that you keep right in the front of your brain before you fly. Between the time you get out of the car and the time where you actually launch the helicopter, have that in the front of your brain where you say, that's another thing that I need to keep an eye on.
I will say also, and I think I use my phone. Some people might just rather use a pad and paper. I have an actual checklist, and it might not be a very official, something like you guys might go through before you're ready to launch, an airplane.
Yeah, no, the checklists are a great way to do business.
And why that actually comforts me is because I know that I will go through that list, and so I don't spend half the time worrying, have I forgotten something? I have a comprehensive list. As long as I go through it, some things are small, some things are bigger to check. But as long as I have it, I think it gives me peace of mind to know that I've gone through the list.
Checklist procedures have established themselves as such a good way of doing things that actually, you have all these people that go into the hospital because they blew out their right knee and they end up replacing the left knee. In the operating room, hospitals have actually consulted. Hospitals have actually been consulting with aviation people saying your checklist procedures are something that we want to incorporate into how we do business because we just make too many mistakes. So why would we think operating SUAS that we're immune from that, that we can't use that to our benefit as well? So that's good for you. And your phone, you took it upon yourself to do that. Only the best at Drone Radio Live, I should say. Multi-rotor forums, we just bring that to the table. It's just how we are.
And this is a sentiment I've said with a few things in the past. It's not that hard.
No.
It doesn't take but a second to do it.
You're right.
Take a couple minutes before you head out. When you get to the field, you do the things that you know that you should. Check your surroundings. If there are things you think you might forget, write them on a list. It's that easy. It doesn't take but a second to do it. So
very good.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you making a contribution to the show.
We'll swap sides again.
And again, Scott goes by Motor Preserve at the website. If you have any questions for him, just ping him at the website using the ampersand signal, followed by Moto Preserve in one of your posts, and it'll automatically generate a notification for him the next time he logs on to the website. Scott also, his day job is motorcycle repair. He repairs vintage motorcycles, all the old British stuff, the old Jap stuff. That's what he does over in Brooklyn. So if you're on the East Coast, if you're into motorcycles and you need a shop for storage in the New York City area, or you need some maintenance, by all means, I'm more than happy to give him a plug when we're here doing the show.